So, hey guys, are you frustrated with where you're at right now? Maybe stunted in your progress? Well, if you are, I want to recommend a place for you to go called Growth Day. growthday.com/ed. It is the #1 personal development app on the planet. It's got all kinds of high performance techniques in there, courses, accountability, journaling, live speeches from some of the top influencers in the world, including me. It's an overall environment to change your life. growthday.com/ed.
About you, that had I met you as a young man, that would have indicated all of this would happen for you?
You know, it depends on the time you met me during my life. You know, at the time when I was super naive and I thought it was just easy, you would have met me, I'd have been like, not a problem. And then that would have been probably around 16 or 17. I think that's when, you know, they like to induct people into the armed forces because that's the smartest and the dumbest time of your life. And at that time, I thought I would have been it. And then right around 21, 22, I realized that I took that 1 year off of school, off of college, to pursue other things. That 1 year became forever. I laughed at all the other kids who searched a higher education. And around 22, 23, I was broke as a waiter in Red Lobster. And all those kids that I laughed at was coming back from college. And I said, maybe I'm the idiot. So it all depends on the time that you met me in life and how naive I was. And if life had kicked me in the teeth properly the way it should have.
The thing I noticed when we met, the reason I ask you that is that, and we'll go to your little bit, about your upbringing a little bit, but when I met you, one thing that struck me, and we've both met lots of people, is your personal presence. So I've heard you say before, I'm short, I'm black, and I'm dyslexic, and that's, you've described yourself that way. When I met you, I met a man with a ton of personal presence, almost bordering on almost intimidating, but certainly a lot of confidence. That's what I ask. Have you always had that? Or is that something you developed as you became more successful? Or were you conscious, like, I need to develop this air of confidence about me? Because all these entrepreneurs are listening to this. And one of the things that I think a lot of them lack is just some personal presence and self-confidence. Did you always have it, or did you work on it?
I think it was a learned trait, and being the short black or whatever. But let's just say in my neighborhood, I was short. A lot of kids, at that time were tough, or they were drug dealers or fighters. I never really knew how to fight really well. Could I hold my own? Yes, but there's always somebody with a bigger wallet, bigger winky, and a bigger fist than you in the world. And I always realized that. I think that it was then when I was able to manipulate my surroundings by knowing that the bigger kids respected me because I was smart, or because some of the other cool kids or the drug dealer friends of mine respected me because I had a moral standard. And I said, listen, if you got something in the car and I know we're good friends, just tell me to get out, man. Don't put me in that situation. And as I started to, gain respect in various different areas for various different people, I found that I gained the confidence to walk into a room and know that I'm all I got, right? And I'm not going to overplay or disrespect you. And I never played smarter than I was. So I love, when you and I, when we speak to colleges or VCs or whoever, it's a lot of people in the room often with the big brains, especially when I speak at big, huge schools. Mm-hmm. I make sure I go in the room and I say, listen, I'm only going to tell you my story, and this is my story, and this is what I have retained from my story. However, the people here, the professors, they can teach me a lot of things on a PhD level. And I don't even want to take away from them because I value what they do. And then all of a sudden you see the professor sitting up in the audience, looking around because they know that I could have came in and said, well, I'm Mr. So forth and so on, and this is the way it is. Mm-hmm. And so when I walk into a room, I appreciate the other person's positioning. I know where I stand, and I think that makes us, and I try to bring that other person up if they're not feeling like they're there. I think that's what gives me the confidence, because I know I'm exuberant in confidence as well as I'm trying to bring the confidence out of the person in the world, of the room, and I respect them. And I hopefully that is what you were witnessing.
Yeah, I did. It's when people have asked me about it, I've described it. And I think there's this balance with successful entrepreneurs of it. Obviously, they have to have a great idea. They have to be able to execute. They have a really unique balance that I see in you of really a presence and a self-confidence, yet humility to learn and to grow and to be open. You seem to have like that major combination. Go back to the upbringing, just because I want people to understand you're one of the most well-known, obviously because of Shark Tank, entrepreneurs too. But you've written 5 books, and but are you legitimately dyslexic?
Yeah.
How's that impacted you as an entrepreneur? I mean, how'd you write books doing that?
Well, believe it or not, 8 out of the 12 sharks are dyslexic. So Richard Branson, myself, Kevin O'Leary, Barbara, I think Rohan, and 2 others that don't come to mind at the moment. So it's fascinating. And I didn't really find out that I was dyslexic till years on in life. I didn't find out I was dyslexic until two-way pagers came out, because you got to remember, as a dyslexic kid, I'd write a love note or I write a letter to my mom, my mother, Damon, hey, and she'll say, hey, you need to fix this. I write it to my teacher. She sends back the really nice, D-. And I write a love letter to my girlfriend. She just leaves me, and I never knew why. That she didn't understand what the hell I was saying, right? But when communication started to come out to write to other people, emails and two-way pages, I would start sending stuff out. And I probably had just started getting a staff at the time, and people would start getting those emails going or two-way pages going, and a couple of them would say, hey, D, you know this? Or if it was a really angry one to somebody, they'd write back, you dumb motherfucker, you know what you sent me? So either way, I started to understand that there was an issue there. And then I went and got tested and realized that I had dyslexia. But when I reflect on growing up as a child with dyslexia, I think the gift of dyslexia is the fact that if I had read a book and I didn't retain anything as much as I should, I'd read it 10 times to make sure I retain things. I would also go out and try to execute things that it said to do, because I wasn't certain if I retained it the right way. I also veered away from school from history and English, but I really loved math and science, and started trying to build the areas I was good at, numbers, and various other things. So listen, it is what I was born with. 20% of the world is dyslexic. 7 presidents were dyslexic. Einstein was dyslexic, and 85% of professional chefs are, and over 40% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic. So I don't think it's a problem. I think it's just a different form of absorbing information.
Wow. I had no idea that was the data. The reason I go there is I think we're all really aware of our deficiencies. For me, it's one of the things you said. I walk into most rooms and I know I don't have the highest IQ in the room, but I didn't allow that thing I was aware of that was one of my deficiencies to make me believe I couldn't be successful or win. I think a lot of people listen to this. They're like, well, yeah, y'all winning, but you don't know this thing about me. I've got this divorce, or I had this bankruptcy, or I'm dyslexic, or, my dad's been locked up, or whatever the thing is. And they start using that thing as the thing in their mind that will cause them not to succeed. And then I'm reading about you because I wanted to do this justice, because I have such respect for who you are and also your message. When I heard you talk, I'm like, I love what he has to say. So you're building FUBU. You literally, because I want entrepreneurs to hear this, because in COVID, this is happening a lot. You had to shut it down a couple times.
Yeah.
I mean, I want everyone to understand this. Take us through that a little bit, because I think most people think it's over, game closed, doors shut, I'm out. Well, that didn't just happen once with you, right?
Correct. So I shut it down 3 times from 89 to 92. It did not happen once, but I was always able to recover from the shutdown because I was taking affordable steps, right? I was acting, I was learning, and I was repeating the act. So I would lose $500, $1,000. And honestly, I didn't know if I wanted to start over again. Again, it was another hustle, another passion that I had. Well, this one was more passion than the other ones. The other ones were due purely to make money, and I didn't love what I was doing. So I ended up quitting or closing up whatever shop it was and not wanting to go further. But when I would close this business and people would say, man, I wore this shirt, I've been looking for you at the mall or at the kiosk, where were you? I can't. It started to call me back, and I found more reasons than the business that called me back. I felt like a place of belonging. I felt like I was adding value to other people. You know what? I got shirts. I got my 10 little shirts. But I'm going on video sets where rappers like LL Cool J, Salt and Pepper, Run DMC are performing. I would have paid to go on that set to watch the greatest artists, as far as I'm concerned, of all times, my time, perform. But yet, when the security is kicking all the kids off, I'm like, yeah, I'm here to dress the artist, so they would kick me off last. Plus, I was hollering at all the video vixens, and I was getting free food from the craft services. So it was a win-win for me. So even if I went to 40 video sets and only 5 put my stuff in, 35 of the video sets, I couldn't wait to be there. So it was a win all around. And that's what a lot of times when entrepreneurs see that they're challenged, they find ways to figure it out because there's so many more things than just the monetary. Usually the monetary reward is an afterthought of your actions and the lessons you've learned and the drive and your dedication. And that's what I found it to be.
Did you have to get a job in between? Like you shut it down, you went and got a regular old job?
Oh my God. So I worked at Red Lobster for 5 years as I did FUBU because, at the end of the day, don't let Shark Tank fool anybody here when Kevin O'Leary says, well, I want my partner to work full time on the business. Okay, if you're doing $500,000, $1 million or whatever the case is, but, I worked at Red Lobster for 5 years and I slept three hours a night. I rented out my house that I had to strangers. So I had 3 bedrooms. I rented that out for $25 a piece, each bedroom. I slept in the sleeping bags next to the sewing machines as we were sewing clothes. In the morning from 6 to 11 a.m., I would answer at that time, a voicemail machine and sew and deliver hats. I'd go to Red Lobster from 12 to 10 o'clock at night, work a double shift, come home and then sew more hats and answer more things from 12 to 3, and then get back up at 6 in the morning and repeat it all over. But I was hopefully taking care of the mortgage by renting out the house at $25 a room. So I was getting $75 a week there. I had insurance at Red Lobster. I was taking all the fried shrimp home, all the food home, and I was making $30,000 a year, which is not a lot, but you equate that to 5 years. That's $150,000. I would have had to do $2 million in business at FUBU to do that, and I was able to last until I was able to now, increase my time from 20% on FUBU to 80% on FUBU and 20% at Red Lobster, and then hopefully take it to where I wanted to go.
This is the real entrepreneur story. This is what I wanted. Thank God you just said that. Like, I'm so glad because just so everybody knows, like, same with me. I had a house. I was doing well. I did well enough. So I quit my job. I was full-time, my first big business. I bought a house. Then I went broke. Then I was stocking shelves and I did the same thing. I rented rooms out in my house so I didn't lose the damn house as I built my business. I just hope all entrepreneurs get a little hope when they hear this. And also they hear the hard part in there, which is like, hey, I slept 3 hours. I was psycho. So, and by the way, when people seem really smart, like Damon does, or I have something to say, a lot of it is experience. Experience is one of the best teachers, man. And that's why he knows so much about being an entrepreneur, because he's done so much of it. Now, I want to ask you this. On Shark Tank, how many that you've invested in, percentage-wise, roughly, winners, losers, what you would consider a winner, loser? What would you say of where you put your efforts and monies? What percentage of the ones you've gone in on have been winners and losers?
So I say 30% of winners. I would say 30% of winners, 30% of losers, and 30% are still trying to figure their way out. Yep. And we happen to have, of course, we happen to have a little bit more of an upside on Shark Tank, because you look at traditional venture, it's probably 1.5% to 2% to 20%, excuse me, yeah, or 1 out of 10 are winners. We happen to have a $5 million commercial on that product, exactly, and or that company when it happens. So that's why I got a little bit more of an upswing. However, my downside is a little bit more also because Shark Tank, sometimes I will emotionally invest in people that may not have the best thing in the world, but I know that the entire world are watching them. And if I invest in them, I can potentially bring them to somebody else that may be more specialized in their area and give them more help that they need. Mm-hmm. And a perfect example of that, and I don't want anybody to say, well, that's a charity. A perfect example of that is the 3 kids that came on with a cutboard product that their father had passed away and their mother had passed away, but their father passed away to 9/11 related causes. And normally that cutboard probably would not have went where it has gone, but we licensed it to Williams-Sonoma. The entire world got behind it, and it is one of the best selling products in Williams-Sonoma. So you got that healthy balance of people that really need that stage, that really need help, but simultaneously they're inspiring a lot of people around the country and around the world. So anyway, to answer the question, I got a little bit of a stacked deck when it comes to the successes, but I got a little bit more of the challenges when it comes to the challenges.
Yeah, I want to figure out a little bit from you what the winners and losers have. One of my favorite ones you did is Bomba Socks. And yeah, I want people to hear about this because I had Blake McCoskey on, who did Tom's Shoes. Kind of a similar concept, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe these guys taught you something too. I'm learning, I'm turning 50 this year. I'm learning more about what I think the consciousness of the world is now in terms of the businesses people want to support. Maybe it's a little bit different than when I was a kid. You wanted to be like Mike. It was almost like you wanted to be like this hero. It seems to me now people want to be a part of something else. So tell them about Bomba Socks, be a good commercial, but also like why it's working and the fundamentals of it, so that entrepreneurs listening to this may need to sow some of these seeds in there.
Yeah, I think you hit a fantastic point. So Blake is a guest shark this year, and he definitely is the pioneer of the social causes behind things. And there's so many different things we can learn from Bomba Socks. So by the way, Bomba Socks is the #1 invested product in Shark Tank history. Really? #1, right? So I get those bragging rights because when you ever see those other underachievers, I call my fellow sharks, just remind them that I shared that great information with you. Mm-hmm. Now, here's a couple of things you can look at from Bomba Socks. #1, when they came on, they were pitching socks, and the last person they should have been pitching was me, because I had 10 clothing brands and 8 of them were already dead. The last thing I wanted was another clothing brand. So I was the last one they should be pitching. But often when you're pitching somebody and or a customer, they don't know what you want until you present and package it in the right way and show a unique way of a selling proposition. But what they realized was I was doing business the old way. I was making clothes, and hopefully a retailer will buy them, and hopefully the retailer will put it on the shelf, and hopefully somebody will buy it. And if they didn't buy it, I didn't know who they were to even follow up. So they were showing me that #1, I'm going to show you how to go direct to consumer, which we're seeing during COVID is especially critical, and that's separating a lot of people and companies. #2, they had a social cause to it. Every time they give a pair of socks away, they would also sell a pair of socks. They would give a pair away to the homeless. Now, I'm a person that grew up in business where traditionally you gave at the end of the year, or you gave to organizations. And even when I gave to organizations, I never advertised it. I never marketed it, because why make a profit off of the hardship of others? Kind of like the people you see giving away food or a sandwich to a homeless person, and they got a camera shoved right in their face going, look at me. Yeah. And they're forcing this person not only to take a sandwich, not forcing them, but to even feel lower because they're on camera, right? Yeah. So I never wanted to do that. However, that was how I worked 20 years ago. Today, with user-generated content and people wanting to get behind something, they want to look through the layers of what you're doing, and they want to tell people, not you, they want to tell people your story, right? And they feel that they can buy from anybody. So if I'm going to buy from you, what are you doing for other people? I could buy socks from anybody. So what I found is that not only they make a good pair of socks, they're very focused on what it is, but I found that, when people are on Zoom or the dinner table or Thanksgiving, they say, hey, Ed, what do you do? Oh, man, I gave away this year, to this organization. They'd be like, yeah, well, I gave to 30 organizations this year. Wow. You rich? No. But every time I bought this, I helped clean up the ocean. Every time I bought this, I helped stop human trafficking. And every time I bought this, I helped give a pair of socks to the homeless. And you know what? That is the marketing, and that's good marketing. It's cause related. And, it's really important. And so people also can get penalized if they're not doing something for you. And by the way, don't just put a rubber stamp of something that you think is good. If people will also find out if you're not, really true to what your core values are and what you're saying you're doing. So be honest about it, change the world, and people will definitely appreciate it.
That's legit. Any of you that are entrepreneurs who's giving you such remarkable advice, you got to find a way that there's some social viral aspect of what it's got to be genuine. You can't, I think people smell bullshit a mile away. And there's got to be transparency. You can't transfer to people that which you're really not feeling and experiencing. It's got to be something you really have a passion for. But if you can find a way to sow those seeds into whatever your business is, I don't care if it's in dry cleaners, if there's something that you do that it extends beyond just cleaning clothes, you're special in this day and age. I'm curious, is there some commonality that we can learn from the ones that you said were the 30% that lost, let's just say? Was there commonality in lack of effort of the entrepreneur, lack of execution? What would you say there's a common thread between the ones that have, I guess, failed?
The commonality in the winners and the commonality in the ones that didn't get where they should be are pretty much similar in some sense. There are many losers there are many that lose and then they start over more wisely in a different area. So that means that maybe the product and or the service, the thing they had was too soon, too early, or they hit some hiccups. However, just like Damon closing 3 times, they were able to do it, but the ones who lose and generally lose and stay in that area, unfortunately, are the ones who believe Well, the shark knows everything, and now that I got a shark, my problems are over. And if I knew everything, then FUBU would be called Nike, right? And it's not, right? So they use a shark as a crutch. Those are the ones who say, well, the reason, if I had more advertising dollars out there, then I would, or I had more money, and they don't have the orders, they don't have those things, then I would do better. Well, money highlights your weaknesses as well. If you're not moving enough product, and you have a shitty advertising campaign, well, $1 million more in a shitty advertising campaign just means you spent more money on a shitty advertising campaign, or the product is inferior, or you don't know who your direct customer is. Those are the people that tend to fail, the ones who put big bets on the areas they don't know. And those are the ones who drown in opportunity, as you want to call it, or they say, if you have too many options, you don't have enough information.
Really good. You guys know why I wanted him on now? By the way, if you go to Damon's site too, he's got a lot of different programs. Look, here's the deal, you guys. Most really successful entrepreneurs, here's what's a rare combo. That you're a successful entrepreneur, I mean a real one, and you create content. Because the truth is, someone like Damon, and I'd like to think even myself, the return on creating content and helping entrepreneurs financially isn't as good as just executing in the businesses that we have.
Right.
So the reason we do it is out of a sincere desire to serve people. That's what I've sensed from Damon, and now I'm listening, I'm like so convinced of it. So he's one of the real that you could learn from that creates content. And by the way, is it The Power of Broke? Is that the one I just read? Is that the title?
I have Power Broke. I have Rise and Grind. The one is just out now. It's called Power Shift. I try to put power somewhere in something. I try to fix it, put it in there. Yeah.
I just finished reading The Power of Broke. And by the way, you should get all 5 books. Guys, it's so good. Like there's books you read and you're like, I'm going to highlight 3 or 4 things in here that I'm going to remember. The problem with his book is there was very few areas I wasn't highlighting. Like the book was highlighted. And one of the things you talk about a lot is negotiation. So when you watch Shark Tank, that's a highlighted negotiation taking place, right? But almost everything's negotiation.
Yep.
That's sales, communication, persuasion is negotiation. What are some of the nuances you could teach us, the fine points of negotiation that most people are unaware of?
There's so many things that, and I think that you're right? What separates us from the people who are successful? It's really what you have negotiated. And like you said, there is so many different forms of negotiation. Listen, trying to get the remote control away from your significant other, or getting your child to get on the school bus, or getting into the bathroom before your roommate is a negotiation, right? But you got to negotiate with yourself first in the mirror in the daytime, when you get up, right? Am I worth it? Can I do this? Why, and so here's a couple of things of negotiation. First of all, know your why. Why are you getting into negotiation? And know also in the negotiation, what are you trying to accomplish? What is your bottom line and what is your top line, right? Also, how do you build influence in the negotiation? If you see somebody like an Ed Mylett or a Damon John in the elevator, you say, Damon, okay, cool. How would I build influence with you in 90 seconds in the elevator? I didn't know I was going to speak to you. Well, I remember a young woman, I was in the elevator, and she told me her business, and she had the perfect pitch. It was simple. Here's my business. I know that I can add value to because this is where I think you need. And you know what? I want to put some skin in the game and do this for 30 days, 60 days, a month, whatever the case is. Give me a contact over your company. And you know what? If nothing comes out of it, at least I tried. And you know what? No harm, no foul. She made the barrier of entry extremely easy for me. She had a name on her card, very easy to follow up. And she said, let me speak to your people. I'm not going to even bother you. Right. And she knew where I could potentially go in business. I go out of the elevator. I look her up on social media. Every time I see her picture, she looks great. I keep seeing this guy next to her. He keeps having the Confederate flag on. I keep looking at who this guy is. It's her husband. I go further into his page. I see that, there's some things that are very questionable in my life about what I would do. She'll never know why I didn't call her, right? Mm-hmm. She didn't have to put all that information on there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Listen, whatever your political beliefs are, whatever your religious, sexual beliefs are, that's totally up to you. But what our parents tell you, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. And when you're putting up stuff like that, you don't know who's watching the entire world. She lost her influence after she had already had the negotiation with me. So build influence with people. Then when you go in the room, when you discuss with, don't let Shark Tank fool you. Shark Tank, the world is not like Shark Tank. Like you just said, the world is not 8 minutes of hi sharks, and then you either leave with a deal or not. You almost never leave with a deal when you first meet somebody. It's a dating process.
Sure.
And when you are talking to them, what's in it for the person you're talking to, not you. You got to realize that person has obligations, hopes, and dreams. Ask the right questions. You see, even when I was writing that book, Power Shift, I was Mark Cuban. He's in the book. He's highlighted a lot of people in the book, right? Billie Jean King, Pitbull, Kris Jenner, huge people. My guy who sits next to me every day on Shark Tank, I keep telling my team, contact him. I want to get this interview together, and the deadline is coming up. He would not get on the phone, and he would not meet with people, with the writer. And my team was looking at me like, hey, Mark is not doing that. Now, I said to myself, obviously it's because I'm much smarter and much better looking than Mark. And, he's intimidated, or I can internalize it as this guy's an asshole. He sits next to me, but is this some Hollywood stuff he's on? Mm-hmm. But you know what I said? You're probably not asking Mark the right question. Mark is somebody who publicly gives out his email. He loves text and whatever the case is. He's not dyslexic. Did you ask him, can he do it over text? They said, we never asked. That's stupid. I said, ask him if he could do it over text. Interview was done in 24 hours. Now, good. I could have internalized that, been offended. It's just like you walk in the room and, and like I said to you earlier, where I came from, I could have walked in the room and somebody said, oh, it's because I'm black, isn't I? No, it's not because you're black, because you got a damn booger hanging out your nose while I'm looking at you weird, right? So it's all about what's in for the other person. And then the final part of negotiation is, how do you nurture the relationship after that and let it keep paying dividends? Whether you close the deal or not, how is that person going to call Ed and say, Damon's a decent dude, or Damon's going to call about Ed and say, yeah, he's a good guy, or do more deals after that? And those are the processes of negotiating, and we can get way into it much further, but a lot of people mess up in those processes.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp, and I'm grateful that it is. I got to tell you, I get asked all the time, what's the one thing that most of the guests that have been on this show have in common? I can tell you, they're all from different backgrounds. Some of them are tall, some of them are short, some of them are from the U.S., some of them are from abroad, different ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, you name it. But I got to tell you, most of them been to therapy, and I'm a big believer in therapy. I think that whether you've got some real trauma you got to work through in your life, or, you just got a problem you want to work on right now, maybe you just want to talk out loud about some issues you got, or find a better quality of emotions. Big believer in therapy, and I love BetterHelp. I love BetterHelp because, number one, it's done online. Number two, if you get a therapist, you don't vibe with them, you can switch at any given time that you want to. It's a wonderful way to go to therapy, and I really believe it can help you if you have things that you want help with. So decide today you're going to give BetterHelp a shot, and stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/EdShow today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/EdShow. If you listen to this show for a while, you've heard me and my guests talk a lot about how critical it is to have your wellness goals in order, especially lately with me. So you know how powerful visualization is. When you visualize yourself 1, 10, 30 years from now, you've achieved all your goals. Ask yourself this: am I healthy at that point? In your visions, of course you are. But like anything else, without a plan to get and remain healthy, you can't hit the goal. And that's why I'm so thrilled to be partnering with Life Force. It's co-founded by my good friend Tony Robbins and Peter Diamandis. Life Force is a leader in proactive care. The Life Force membership includes everything you need to understand your wellness and help you make good decisions today that keep you on track in the future for your health. Listeners of my show get $250 when they first sign up for their membership by going to mylifeforce.com/ed. That's mylifeforce.com/ed. Take control of your wellness with Life Force and see what the healthiest version of you actually looks like and is capable of. These products and statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
I've watched you on TV all these years, and I'm thinking, she's got so much confidence and presence. This is like an Upper West Side, New York, raised with a silver spoon. That's what I'm thinking, right? And then I start to read and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's one of us. And she's had to overcome this tremendous adversity. She's one of 10 kids. She's New Jersey. Your dad wasn't the richest guy in the world by a mile. I was just fascinated by your upbringing and what you've turned your life into. Then I read, you couldn't read or write. Could you tell us?
Eventually I did.
Eventually. But as a child, you had dyslexia. I didn't know any of this about you. So let's just start out there just for a second, because I want everyone who sees this finished product, this, one of the top entrepreneurs, well-known ones on the planet, take us all the way back to little girl Barbara.
Well, after that introduction, I'm going to get myself a bottle of whiskey and start drinking at this time of the day so I could talk about it. No.
You're 2 behind. I've already started, so go ahead.
Okay, good. But you know what? All of that kind of background stuff puts a lot of emphasis on money and what money brings. And I've learned as an adult, I was very lucky having that background, being one of 10 kids, having worries all the time about how we would make do in our little house. We had 10 kids in 2 bedrooms, boys' room, girls' room. My mother